So this is Raising Capital Part 2. Part 1 is the rules and regulations. Part 2 is the financial literacy part. And Part 3 is presentation. Part 3 on presentation, your job is to create your own presentation so that you someday can present like I will. And you'll get to watch me do that if you set the appointment. Not enough people are doing this. But Sal, you can attest, very easy. It's very relaxed. Okay, I know you've done it before as well, George. It's very simple. Again, very difficult if you try to go at this by yourself. If you want to piggyback off of us, it makes it a lot easier. And I'll give you the example. And you guys, when you were in the presentation, you heard me say this. People giving away their money in Southern California, in particular, trying to separate people from their money or even talk about it is taboo. And it's very, very difficult because that's what people have worked very difficult or jobs for a long time to save that money. And when you come in with a crazy idea of real estate investing, many people are taught that this business is very risky. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Do financial planners tell you to go out and flip houses?
No.
Why not?
They lose money.
They don't get paid. Mm-hmm. They think you might lose money. You can lose money. We know you can lose money. This carries a bit of risk to it.
Well, anything with a good return, though.
Anything with a good return. Okay. Part of why I like to really ingrain that formula in your minds and that we don't waver from it, because it's a protection. It doesn't protect us from everything, but it's a good protection. That margin is key, and that's part of when we're talking to these homeowners and they don't want to come down to our price. You gotta understand, we have to protect our investors. When I sit down with that homeowner, we're backed by investors. They're our first priority, not how much money we make. We have to protect those funds, because one time, for you guys especially, one loss, you're done, one and done. I don't want that to be on your first. We got to get you to a point where you're doing bunches, where when you take a hit, you can cover. Because you will take a hit along the way. There's going to come a point where you're going to break even or lose money. You do enough deals, it happens. Anybody who says they haven't, they're lying to you. And there's plenty of people that will say that. Oh, I've done 1,000 deals, I've never lost money. Yeah, right. There's just too many things that can go wrong along the way. All right, so let's talk about separating money. All right, so think about this. Deidre, you're brand new. All right, you come in and you want to ask someone for their investment dollars. So say you were to come to me and you're going to say, hey, Sam, I want you to invest $100,000 in my flip. And I would say, all right, sounds good. What's my return? We talk about that, right? And you say, well, I'm willing to give you half the profit for your 100 grand. I only have to put in 100 grand, I get half the profit. What's the profit look like? And you say, profit's going to be 75 grand, so you'll get about 37.5 for your 100,000, or 37.5% return on my money in 6 months. Sounds good. It's enticing. Now I start asking more questions. How long have you been doing this? And you say, I'm brand new. Okay, you're brand new. And that's probably why you want to give me the high return, because it's harder to get investment dollars at a lower return when you're brand new. So let's talk about this. And I give you the analogy. So who in here has a young child? I'm going to go with you, Tyler. You have a young child. Okay, how old?
8 months.
The baby is 8 months?
The baby's 8 months. The other one's 4.
The other one's 4. Okay. Let's talk about the 4-year-old. You've had 4 years to grow close to your firstborn. And God forbid you find out that child has a heart issue and it needs to go in for surgery. And you go to the hospital. Bless you. You go into the hospital and the nurse comes out and says, hey, everything's great. Dr. Thomas is going to work on he's going to do the surgery today. Just want to let you know this is his first time, nothing to worry about. He's seen this happen a lot of times. He's been in there in the operating room. He's seen it a lot of times, but this will be his first time operating in real life. What do you say? No. Not a chance. Yeah. Not with something precious to you, right? Okay. Get me someone more experienced. That's why you're here. You understand? That's why you piggyback off of someone with experience, because we get to be the doctor that's done this a lot of times and already made our boo-boos along the way and recovered and all that. Okay? So, and people will hold on to their money very similar to their babies, especially in Southern California. This is a very unique place. Probably similar to some of the other big cities in the country. But if you go down to maybe in the Midwest somewhere, it is different. People are more gullible. That's why people that are doing real estate there, they don't make as much money because they're smaller deals, but they do a lot of deals. That's why when they send mailers, sometimes they have a 30% return on their mailings. We'll be lucky if we get 1%, sometimes 0.5%. People are more savvy, they're more sophisticated, and they're in the know. You go someplace else, it's not quite the same. Plus, here you're dealing with houses that are $400,000 to $1 million usually. You go to the Midwest, you're talking about sometimes $30,000, sometimes less, sometimes $100,000. Big difference. People can recover from a $100,000 loss. Try recovering from a $400,000 to $500,000 loss, right? So think about this. So that's why this money part of this is what's going to either make or break you in this business. If you can raise capital, you'll never have an issue, ever. If you can't, you need to partner with someone who can. Back when he introduced me to my old partner, the reason why I came in is because I could raise capital. If I didn't have that, he didn't need me. Right? That's what it was all about. I go, what do you need? He goes, I don't have any money. Because he had gone through the crash. I said, that's not a problem. I knew how to raise capital. So what do you think? Their need for financial literacy?
Yep.
I bet you I could ask you some hard questions in this room, you'd never be able to answer them. Because no one has taught you. Unless you're someone who really pays attention, and there's people that do, but most of us are working, we're having families, we're busy, so we turn on the television that kind of explains some things to us once in a while. We read a book, then we forget about it, and we don't practice what we learned. You guys, hopefully most of you have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by now. He talks about some pretty good concepts in that book, right? Okay, but then we go and we buy the doodad. And if you know what doodad is, that's because you read the book. Doodad is something that we buy because of emotion. A doodad is something we spend money on that we don't need. It's a want. So for example, when my kids ask me for something, is it a want or a need? Most of the time it's a want. Do you need it? No. So unless you need it, you probably shouldn't get it, unless you want to work hard and you want to spend your money. He also talks about buying income producing assets that pay for your doodads. There's nothing wrong with that. Buy a house that pays for your retirement. Buy another house that pays for your car payment. All right? Think about those types. Buy into a business. There's nothing wrong with buying into businesses, just the same as real estate. Always make sure that when you're in a retirement program, you want to be putting away 10 to 15% of your gross income every year. I would suggest 15% to have enough. If you're not, you're selling yourself short. So you got to make up for it. Real estate can do that. It can, if you stick with it long enough. But if I'm not the guy that's going to sit here and tell you that you're going to be a millionaire in 6 months, like the Kool-Aid drinking guys, the gurus, right? They're all going to tell you, oh yeah, you're going to be rich in 6 months. It's not a reality. Unless you come to the table with a lot of money and you get kind of lucky doing the gambling thing, yeah, if you come in with a lot of money, you can actually do it. But if you don't have a lot of money, we got to raise some capital for you. And that takes some time. Let's talk about some of these things. Cost of living. You guys have heard of this thing called inflation. We're about to, in my opinion, go into a hyperinflationary period. That's my opinion. So you're going to see the cost of goods and services go up, especially if we get a minimum wage in Southern California of $15. Businesses, they're just not going to take losses. So the cost of those goods and services will go up. You just have to assume. Or jobs are going to get lost and less people will be working with the same responsibilities of the group. I love when Shweta's here, because Shweta owns a Subway. And I asked her this question. I said, so what happens when you have to pay your employees 15 instead of 10? She goes, I lose 30% of my income. Or I have to work it and I have to let people go. Oh, wow, that's interesting. So sometimes raising that minimum wage can be counterproductive. I think if the economy was great, let's do it. But when the economy is struggling and what are we adding, 2.5 billion a day in debt? Somewhere along those lines. So we have inflation. We know people don't save. I sent out an article not too long ago where 68% of Americans had less than $1,000 in their savings account. You're going to see a slide that also tells you that most 68% of Americans are looking to depend on Social Security for their retirement. And you're going to see another slide that says the average payout in Los Angeles is about $1,300 a month, give or take. We helped Miss Margaret. What was she getting? $1,400? And that was with a husband that had passed. Right? Some of this is depressing, guys. Some of it is. The great thing is if you know it, you can do something about it. Can't do anything about yesterday. All you can do is do something about today or tomorrow. 73.8% of Americans 65 and older are living on a combined income of private pension Social Security of $10,000 or less per year. That's basically 3/4 of our country. So we have the elite 1 to 2%, then we have the wealthy or higher upper middle class, and then you have the rest of the group that failed to put the money away for retirement because they were so busy just living in today. And living today, guys, it's expensive. I need to spend the time and really figure out what my kids are costing me and educate everybody else before they have more children. This is what the actual cost is. They say it's $250,000. I'm willing to bet it might be a little more than that. It depends on where you live. Probably coastal areas probably a little more expensive than inland. But the kids still want things. Now they all see what's out there on YouTube and social media. It's not like they're living in a ghost town or a small town where they're not seeing things anymore. Now the internet has made everything, everything's in our face. It's not just TV. Kids don't even watch TV anymore. Kids are I don't know about your kids. My kids are on their phones.
Or the laptop.
Laptop, phone, very rarely watching the television like they used to. Before I came here, my wife's out of town for work, and so I got daddy duty. And so, my kids begged me to get the dog, right? And so I'm like, my son got home from baseball practice. I'm like, hey, before you start your homework, I want you to go take the dog on a walk. Oh, I got to do my homework. I said, well, you need to take the dog for a walk. It's not fair to have a puppy that's, inside all day. Anyway, kind of have that moment. 5 minutes later, I go in, and he's on his phone on his bed. Homework, huh? Let me have your phone. So he no longer has his phone. Just like that, because that's the way our world is today. By the year 2020, the number of people living with chronic conditions is expected to be 157 million. How many people live in this country? 330 million, I believe. That's a lot. That seems like a really high statistic. But obviously our population will grow. All right.
That's only 4 years away.
Yeah. And a lot of people have disabilities. I was talking to a parent today I had a student of mine that I had, up 10 years ago that she just got pregnant. And so the parent called me and just wanted me to know. That's kind of nice. And but the parent told me, oh yeah, I just got put on disability. I'm hearing that more and more and more. People getting hurt at work or back pain and stuff like that. So it is a reality. It's definitely happening. Long-term care. Now, this is interesting. A lot of this is based on ethnicity. If you haven't noticed, Caucasian people don't take care of their elders. Asian families definitely do, and you'll see a lot of Hispanic families. They always take care of their families. The rest of us, a lot of times we don't do that. We like to send people to old people's homes or elderly care. It's funny, one of our investors owns an elderly care facility, and I went there. They're either white or black. It was really interesting to me. I was just like, that is really interesting. And you see a few that were of different ethnicities, but yeah, it was all white and black. I didn't see any Asians. Didn't see any Latin people there either. Thought that was interesting.
It's starting to change.
Is it changing?
As you get more deeper into second and third generations, it's starting to happen a little bit more readily accepted.
Oh, really? So it's that Americanization, right?
It's Americanization. Although in the Asian community, they don't keep the parents there. They put them there for the day. It's like an adult daycare or something.
So it's a drop off for a while.
Yeah,
For a
it's like,
break.
it's like when dropping off your kids
Yeah.
for daycare. Here, you drop off your parents for
Yeah.
daycare. I have a couple of clients that are like that.
Wow.
Big old facilities.
In this real estate world, you'll get a real good picture of this because a lot of what we buy are trust sales. And it doesn't, or a family liquidating the house while the parents are in a home. And most of the time, again, I see this, it's usually Caucasian. That's the culture. I'll tell you, when I was a kid, remember, I grew up in a Hispanic community, and it used to drive me nuts that my dad would send me out to work in the front yard by myself while he sat behind the TV or the computer. And whenever my buddy across the street, Luis's family, needed work, the whole family would come and they'd all get it done. I used to get so frustrated. My dad had me pouring concrete and stuff all by myself. I'd be working, and there'd always be Luis's the Saavedras, their whole family would be over there. They'd have, and then they'd cook a pig in the backyard after. It's great times. Celebrate it. Isn't that weird? They'd dig a hole and they'd cook a pig. Carnitas, right? Yeah. All right. If you died tomorrow, your family could face financial devastation. The average death claim paid by insurance, this is 99, so old, so you know it's much higher, $15,000. Average death claim.
It's not much higher.
Yeah, probably not. Well, he's in that world of insurance, so he'll be able to tell you. Yeah, what would you say it is?
It's hovering right around 22,000 now for the average.
So $22,000. So when people die, that's what the average death claim in insurance is coming as $22,000. You guys know what a funeral costs these days? And then you know what it costs to bury someone in a graveyard?
25,000.
Yep. Gravesite. It's very, very expensive. That's why she's paying $50 a month for hers, because she didn't want her kids to have to pay for it. Because when you start getting up there, you start realizing these things cost money. And some people don't care. They're like, I don't care. Let my kids pay for it. I don't want my kids to have to pay for anything for me, personally. And then you got taxes. We're not going to talk about that yet. How about 95% failure rate in America? So here's the statistics. Tracking 100 Americans from 25 to 65. This was a study. Okay, it's been around for a while. Tracking 100 Americans from 25 to 65. This isn't 65 to 100. All right, this is this 40-year period. 36 will be dead, on average. 54 will be dead broke. So what's the total there?
90.
So 90% right off the bat. They're either dead or dead broke. 5 will still be working. That's not bad. They're 65, they're still working. 4 will be financially secure, and 1 will be financially independent. The question always lies, which one of these will you be? What's the statistics? What's going to be your story? I've already got mine figured out, but it took a lot of work. My job is to help you get yours, but you got to stick with this, guys, because you're going to want to quit along the way when it's not working. You're going to get disheartened. You're going to get distracted. Happens. So let's talk about financial literacy and why we need it. 40% of U.S. adults actually keep a budget and track their spending. I actually think it's less than that. I mean, how many of you really, balance out your checkbook every time you use it? I don't even do it, so, it's not something I do. I haven't had to at this point. All right. We have that statistic, 3/4 of America paycheck to paycheck. These are the people that have less than 1,000 or very little money in savings. Paycheck to paycheck means you're one accident, one boo-boo away from devastation. You guys, any of you have you found out what your insurance rates are going up to? We're seeing 40, 50% increases right now. My deductible went from $1,200 to $1,800 per person in my household. So I have to pay $1,800 before I get any insurance backing. I do get a physical free for a year,
Oh, how exciting.
okay, which is nice. And they only cover 80% of any major surgery. So I would have to come in with 20%. This is the part people don't realize. Oh, I have insurance. Yeah, but it probably doesn't cover the whole thing. It's getting worse. So these are things that we just need to be aware of. We need to have these conversations. We're too busy having conversations about whether the Chargers or the Rams won the last game, right? And it's gone. But stuff that really affects our future, we don't have those conversations. Do you realize other countries laugh at us? You guys talk about your football. We talk about things that are going on with our country. You know, talking about even politics is really taboo. It's controversial. Talking religion, controversial. You get into some serious arguments bringing up those things. I asked my insurance guy today, I said, who'd you end up voting for? I go, Jeff, I don't care. Honestly, I'm not going to, I go, I'm just curious. This is a really interesting one. And he goes, well, I tend to swing to the left. I'm like, well, okay, so you're probably going to be happy. I have a feeling, you're probably going to get that. So, yeah, well, I'm really libertarian. Everybody does that. Well, I don't want to offend you, so I'm a libertarian. Look, we should be able to have conversations about things in life. This all affects our children, our future, right? Be able to talk about it, not argue. If you have a difference of opinion, that's a great part about America, right? I can have a difference of opinion. I can have this thing called freedom of speech. And if it's different than yours, I respect the fact that you're different. That's what's great about us. Sal and I go back and forth all the time. I don't care. I love Sal. It doesn't matter what. Yeah, no, we do. We have fun with it. And it's an inside joke. I don't really get mad at him, and he doesn't get mad at me. But we get to have some great arguments, And
You learn something from it.
yeah, I have one of my best friends from college. He is the most liberal of liberals. Man, I cannot argue with him. He has some really good points. He really does. He understands it. And then I have my other buddy who's an ultra right-wing Republican. And they just go at it when we get together. And it's really interesting, but you learn. You listen, and they both know stuff. Most of us don't pay attention. We're just going through life. Going through life. So you guys can read the statistics. 50% of American families less than 3 months worth of expenses saved. 27% have no savings at all. So the first thing any financial advisor is going to tell you to do is what? Emergency fund. 6 months. Right? Most people do not have that. You will, no matter what, at some point, have a boo-boo. You will have something in your life that happens. Whether you get in a car wreck. Delary's mom, a couple weeks back, was just driving through an intersection and someone ran a light and clocked her. Boom. In the hospital. It can happen to any of us at any time. How many close calls have you guys had? I had one today. Someone came out of a gas station, made too wide of a turn, okay, and I'm here. This car, everybody starts panicking. Luckily, it didn't get hit. I got one for you. This is Monday, correct? I was in Compton last night meeting in...
Easy, buddy.
Who said whoa? Oh. I manage, remember that apartment building we did, the wholesale type thing? Well, I went and spent about 3 or 4 hours with those families last night. And collecting rent, just getting to know them, looking at, what's going on with their apartments. It was a really good experience for me. And, a lot of people go, what are you doing over there? Believe me, that's all in your heads. Compton is not that bad. And if I were to go out and walk down the sidewalk and make stupid comments, I'd be the enemy. But I haven't had any issues. So I'm there. And so when I left, I went to get on the freeway, and my light's green, but something weird is going on. Everybody's turning left. And like, these people are turning left at the same time our light's green to go straight. And it's nighttime, and it was bad. Like, no one's stopping for each other. And turns out I look back, because I'm halfway over, I look back, the left turn arrow was on, and our light's green. It could have been like that. And cars are going quick and turning and turning and turning, and no one's stopping for each other. I almost got hit then. That's twice in 2 days. So just think about this, guys. That's reality. So what's the point of me telling you that?
Driving drunk.
Make sure you have life insurance. Make sure you have insurance, because you just never know. The first thing I tell my wife this, she goes, "We got to up our insurance." I'm like, "Okay, honey. All right." Look at this. This is a lot of statistics tonight. Our debt problem. So 11.52 trillion is the total amount of debt that American consumers owe. The scary one now is school loans, right? College costs keep going up. And we can go over these, but 85% of American parents thought that a course in personal finance should be a high school graduation requirement. Any of you get investing advice or learning about any of that in high school?
You're right.
Some? It's rare.
I did.
Yeah. I know I took keyboarding. We took bookkeeping. We had to balance a checkbook at one point, but I never got any advice on how much I was supposed to save for retirement. I didn't even know what a 401k was. Right? I was like, what is that? You know, it's when you're young, you don't know these things. It's important for parents to teach it. And if your parents don't have it, how are they going to teach you?
That's what most of the kids that know about it. Our parents are very wealthy.
Yeah?
That's the only ones that know.
So let's focus on that, right? What you just said is critical. Wealthy people pass that on to their children.
They understand it's
So
important.
children that are at a young age start to invest. They already have their investment accounts. They're already on, they're on their laptops, spending, buying stocks when they're 10, 11 years old. Starting businesses and that mindset. So when they graduate from high school or college, their expectation is so much different than that kid who just didn't get taught any of that, who's just trying to figure life out. And then they go to college or a JC, and then who hits them? Credit card companies. Because they can have it now. And what kind of society do we live in now? Instant gratification. We call it the entitlement age. Right? The millennials, they want it now. They don't want to have to wait for it. And if they can't get it now, they give up. And they go find something else to do. Do you know the average person changes jobs? I think it's 4.3 years right now. 4.3.
Remember when there was lifetime?
Lifetime, yeah. No such thing as a pension anymore. Rare. Maybe for teachers and maybe police officers, they might have something like that. I know firefighters might, right? Do they? They have pensions? Yeah? Oh gosh, so again, more bad news. 27% of Americans have saved less than $1,000, but we know that that's much higher. I mean, how many people do you know that actually have enough savings for 6 months? You sit with a lot of people, do they? They may have it in their house, but what happens if you lose your job? You can't get it out of your house, bless you.
Or if
Right?
they have it in deferred comp funds,
Right? Can't get to it without penalty.
get there easily.
Right. As a teacher, I could not touch my pension. While I was a teacher, you could not touch that pension. At least that's what I was told. So if I wanted to pull money out of it, you couldn't. You couldn't touch it.
Well, pension's not really a fund. It's just money the company pays out to those people. It's just like Social Security. There's no fund there.
And if they go
It's
broke,
the money
then
they
it's
take
gone.
in, they pay straight off to people that are getting it.
Mm-hmm. What's the latest with PERS?
FERS right now is about 300 billion funded.
300 billion underfunded. PERS.
FERS.
So the STRS and PERS.
So those government
For
pensions?
classified personnel in schools is PERS. Teachers are
Could that bankrupt California?
It's what we're talking about, the next bubble, pension bubble.
Pension bubble.
Wow.
How about this one? This is one you absolutely need to know because it's important. It's an important part of our process. The average American household has about $16,000 in credit card debt.
In 2012.
Yeah, I would assume it's probably a little higher now. All right. Sometimes for these presentations, it's hard to get real current data, so we're usually working off a 2 to 3 year, window prior. So, again, $16,000 in credit card debt. So when you ask somebody if they have that, now look, how long does it take to pay that off if they're paying the minimum payment? Because they're paycheck to paycheck. Remember, 3/4 of the country is paycheck to paycheck. That means they're not sending any extra money to the credit cards.
30 years.
30 years, $42,000 is what they'd pay for that $16,000.
Student debt.
Okay, the most important thing you'll get tonight is what we're going to learn next. Because when you can show it to somebody, when you can show this to somebody, they go, whoa. And you've heard me probably talk about it before, but I want you to make sure that you know how to do this like the back of your hand. On this card, I want you to write Rule of 72. And don't look at your notes, that's cheating.
Can't read them anyway.
What is the minute?
They're too small? They're there as a guide. Rule of 72 was, yeah, because I can't get around. Rule of 72 is something that was created by our good friend Einstein. And I want you to look at the quote underneath. The most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. The person who understands compound interest will earn it. The person who does not will pay it. Compound interest is like a magical force when you understand it. So, what we have to do to figure this out is we need to understand that when we invest money, we get a return on that money. That's why it's called an investment. Understand? So, in a CD, what is that today? A certificate of deposit. What are we getting as a return? Less than 1%. If we're in a jumbo, we can earn over 1. Back in 2005, those same CDs were paying over 7%. Okay. What are interest rates on home loans right now? 3.5? If you're doing a 15-year, sometimes you can get a little lower. You can buy it down. And you guys understand that that's simple interest. You are not paying compound interest on your home mortgage. That's simple interest. Now, I'm planting those seeds for a reason, because many people are under this mindset that, especially when they're younger, that I got to pay off my house as fast as I can. I think that's fine if you want to sleep better at night, if that's what it allows you to do. All right? But that may not be your best choice financially and mathematically. So rule of 72 is simple. Simply divide the number 72 by your expected rate of return to determine the number of years it takes for that money to double. That's what this is all about. We're looking for doubles. What are we looking for? Doubles. So if I earn 4%, I divide 4 into 72, and the answer is 18. That means my money doubles every 18 years. 6%, 6 into 72 is 12. My money doubles every 12 years. 8 into 72 is 9. Every 9 years, I see my money double. All right? And at 12%, doubles every 6 years. Make sense? 15%, 4.2 years. And so on and so on. Now, when we start getting into 20% returns, which you can do in these cash flow properties with some leverage, you can absolutely do much higher than that. You can speed up this process of retirement savings that we sometimes we got to make up for lost time. All right, so the power of compound interest can get you to do that. The rule of 72 is very, very important. All right, and so we're just throwing out some stuff out here. So what did they start with? They started with $10,000 at 4%. From starting at age 29 to 65, it turned into 40,000. You look over here at 12, that turned into 640,000. I don't like playing with 10 grand. I want to start playing with some higher numbers because I'm not looking to borrow $10,000 from people. I'm looking at borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars from people. So I'm going to give you that, or I gave you that note card for a reason. We're going to all learn this so that we know it like the back of our hand so we can explain it to somebody else. Or at least be ready to when that time comes. I'll do it for you when you have me sit down with somebody. All right. Do you guys remember I talked about the deferred trust we just did for the 38-year-old?
Yes.
He had $500,000 that he had as a gain, and I told him that about 40% of that was going to go to capital gains. Give or take, $200,000. He's 38, and that's $200,000 of opportunity costs that he would give away to Uncle Sam. So what I want you to figure out on paper is if he were to earn 12% on that money, which we pay, what would that money turn into over the period of time from him being 38 to 65, 27 years. So let's write down these facts. We'll work this one together. So this is Paul. And Paul is 38 years old. Right? How many years till he's 65? 27. So we take 65 minus 38. So let's do that. So let's subtract our 38. Borrow from there. We got 15 minus 8, which is 7, and 5 minus 3, 27 years. I have horrible handwriting. I apologize. All right. So I have 27 years to make $200,000 either work for me or not work for me. I could give it away to Uncle Sam, or I can earn 12% on that money. So we're going to invest $200,000 for 27 years at 12%. Okay? At 12%, so divide 72. So 72, right, divided by what?
12.
My rate of return, which is 12, goes in 6 times. So now I know my money's doubling every 6 years.
But
Right?
you cannot touch that money, right? You cannot touch it.
Yes, you can.
You can?
Theoretically, it's invested, but
I mean, you can, I'm talking about you cannot touch this 200,000, but you can touch the interest. You can take it?
well, you don't want to. Well, what we want to show you is what does it grow to if you don't touch it at all. You can touch it, but we want you to be smart. Just let this grow. This is your retirement. We're making up for it. You sold this property. It grew. You sold it at a good time. You were going to give that money to Uncle Sam. But now we found that there's a way to save you from doing that. So $200,000, that doubles every 6 years. So I'm going to take my 27 years that I have to work with, because that's my time horizon till I turn 65. All right? How many times will 6 go into it? So 4.5? So 4.5 doubles. Now I can on my hand do this very easily. I can go, okay, I have 4 doubles. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 8. 8 becomes 1.6. 1.6 becomes $3.2 million. Oh, and then I get another half a double. So what's that going to be? 1.6 maybe? It's probably mathematically it's more. Because a double would be 6.4. So I got a half of that. So another $4.8 million. So you have $4.8 million if everything works out okay. Or you have 0 because you gave it all away to Uncle Sam early. So if you can explain that to somebody and you just focused on people that are selling property or businesses, imagine how many investment dollars you could bring in to your projects. And you only need 1 or 2 investors like this.
And that's because you saved him from having to pay Uncle Sam.
Yeah. That money would have been gone. So he's going to listen to anything I say. Look, I can get you 12%. And look, there's a reason why. Look at the difference between 8%. We could give 8%, and there's nothing wrong with 8%. But when I do financial advising with people, I'd much rather they get 12 because we can afford it. And there's some risk involved. Some people, when you say 12, they think it's too risky. So then you go, well, I can give you 8. You can have 6. What do you want? 6, 8, or 12. You make the choice. Yes?
That's, when we sit down with investors, we need to go over that.
This is the golden ticket. So let's do it. Let's make sure you guys know how to do this. So I'm going to invest $100,000. My return, let me get rid of this, because most people will give you $100,000 to start. They're not going to give you the whole 400 or 500. It's usually the way it works. Sometimes they'll start you out with 50. So we have $100,000 that someone's going to invest. They're 42 years old. They're going to retire at 65 because they're normal.
That would be most people don't retire at 65 anymore. Sorry.
It's okay. You're so funny. No, I'm not going to tell you to shut up. They're going to retire at 65, and they're getting a 6%. Well, that's not. They're doing really well in their 401k. They're getting 6% return.
6% on their 401k.
They're getting 6% in their 401k. All right. So what I want you to tell me is how many doubles they're going to get and what their money is going to turn into. Now, obviously, you're going to need a calculator sometimes. So take your 65 minus your 42. So 65 minus 42. 23 years. That's their time horizon. That's how much time they have before they retire. Right? 6 into 72 is 12. Right? So it doubles every 12 years.
So it's 2 to 23, to the power of
So
23.
so 23 divided by 12 is what?
1.9.
Okay.
Say 2.
6%. Most, remember, 3/4 of America doesn't have that. So if you find someone who does, you're in really good shape.
So 12 goes into 23 by 0.9 times.
So do the math.
23.
So 100,000 times 1.9, or excuse me, it's not 1.9, right? They get 1.9 doubles.
1.9 double.
Mm-hmm. I would round up to 2.
200,000.
So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4.
It's basically 2 to the second power.
Mm-hmm. So that person would have somewhere around $400,000 in retirement after 23 years in their 401k, of which they're going to give a lot to Uncle Sam because that was in a 401k,
30%.
right? We're going to talk a little bit about those. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. Make sure you understand this. If you don't, raise your hand because you have to. It's so important. You don't understand it. Okay. So the key is to understand that you divide the rate of return into 72. So an easy way is like 8. 8 times 9 is 72. So if I divide, I'm getting 8% on my 100,000 or $8,000 a year. I divide 72 by 8 and I get 9. So every 9 years my money is going to double. That's all you need to remember. So if I have 100,000, 9 years from now I'll have 200,000. 18 years from now I'll have 400,000 because it'll double again. Right? 9 years later, it will double again. That's the only thing this deals with, is how quickly your money doubles. And the reason why we want to relate it to people's retirement, because they don't know this. They don't pay attention. They have no idea. I would say 80% of the people out there have no idea what their 401k or their IRA or anything's doing because they don't want to read a prospectus. They don't want to look at it. It's complicated. It's almost like that on purpose. Yes, sir.
No, I was asking, like, what she was talking about, they would know their rate of return, like you said, 6% on the 401k. Is that the average?
It's going to depend on the 401k. There isn't really an average.
So would the
average
person know what they're getting on their 401k?
My personal belief is that's kind of where people are, and then you got inflation eating it up and taxes eating up the other half. But I'm never going to tell someone not to do a 401k, especially if they're getting matched. Especially if they're getting matched. Okay, I would like you to share with the person next to you, explain the rule of 72 to the person next to you. It needs to be able to go back and forth until you completely understand it. So, Simon? All right. So, I had a gentleman who had an IRA from another job. Remember, how often are people leaving jobs?
Every 3.4 years?
About 4 years. A little over 4 years. So that means they have these IRAs that are usually sitting in some other account, and they usually roll them to the new business. But if they're leaving jobs, there's a period of time where sometimes they just leave them with another company, and they just let it roll. So this person, his name is actually Sam, and Sam, there are a couple Sams in here. What's that?
We're lucky with Sam.
We're okay with Sam. So Sam had, I think he had $110,000 sitting in an IRA. $110,000.
In a 401k or a IRA?
An IRA. It was sitting there.
Okay.
Okay. At 35 years old.
At 35?
Yeah. And I think he had done a rollover or something in order to get it to where it was. But he's 35 years old. Okay. Engineer. All right. $110,000 sitting in an IRA. IRA. You guys know what an IRA stands for?
Yeah.
Individual retirement account. Okay. And so he comes to me and he goes, look, I'm in a new company now, and they're matching me on this 401k. They're giving me some stock and stuff like that. He goes, but I got this old IRA. I go, well, what are you earning on it? He goes, well, I don't really know. So we looked at his paperwork. So what you do is you just call. You just call and you find out. And they did an average, and he was earning about 5%. And he goes, oh my gosh, I thought I was earning so much more than that. I said, yeah. And we still don't know if that's 5% before fees or after fees, because they weren't real clear on that when we called them. You get that a lot when you call? You have to figure out, what is it after fees? Right? So I go, okay, 5%. Let's run it. So I go, all right, you're 35. So when are you going to retire? Everybody's magical answer is 55, but it's not true. I go, okay, let's be realistic. Okay, the average person usually goes at least 65, right? People are working later and later. So 65 years old is when he was going to retire.
30 years to go.
So he's got 30 years. It's a nice round number, which is nice. It's nice to catch people early. All right, so what we want to do is go, okay, what will he earn at 5% over that period of time, and what will he earn at 12% over that period of time? So if we divide 72 by 5, 14.4. Okay, if we divide 72 by 12, we already know the answer, right? 6. All right? So, that's all right. So I got 30 years. My time horizon is 30 years. So I'm going to work for 30 more years in order for my money to grow. Now, his IRA was not a Roth, so he's going to get hit with taxes at some point on this unless he converts. And if he converts and he does that, he could actually pay the taxes now and have a little less money to start, but would never have to pay taxes on anything he gained. He did not choose to do that, even against what I told him to do. All right? So if we do this $110,000 over 30 years at 4. So if we do this, if we divide 30 by 14.4, we're going to round up to 2. All right, so let's do this. So at 5% in his current 401k, he's got 2 doubles. 110 turns into 220, and then it turns into 440. So let's do that. So 110 plus 110 equals 220. That's 1 double. 1D. Okay, and he gets 2 of these. So a second double plus 220 equals $440,000. Right? 440,000. Now let's do the 12%. So 30 divided by 6. 5 doubles. So we're going to need a little room for this. So 110 plus 110 equals 220. It's 1 double. You can do this on a napkin, guys. Okay. What's our second double? Plus 220. Second double equals 440. Right? 440 plus, if you really want to write it out, because you might want to show it to them, equals 880. How many doubles is that? It's your third double. Okay. Plus 880 equals what?
1760.
Oh, I still have some more doubles, right? One more double? So 1.7
3520.
plus 1760 equals what?
3520 or 30. 3.5.
So my question to him would be A or B? 440,000
Over the same period of time.
over the same period of time, or 3.5 million?
Well,
Now I can pay my tax.
she has a question, Simona?
Yes, I do.
So hold on real quick. Do you understand the power of what we just did? It's the same timeline, the same amount of money, just secured in 2 different ways. Now, that means we got to do business for the next 30 years. Or he has to find someone like us, which there's tons. Okay, there's other people other than fortune weavers. Believe me, once I retire, I'm just lending my money to people like me, and I'll know what they're doing. I'll make sure I have a little bit of control. Okay? Well, I think I'll never lose. I'm never going to have that mentality. But I can lose here just the same in a 401k. Just the same.
And if you lost half,
If I lost half, I'd still have $1.5 million. If I lose half of this, I only have $240,000 to try to live off of in retirement. All right? So this is what we do on a napkin. And you have to add it up for them. Let me just show you this. Oh, wow. So what would you rather have? Sergio, would you rather have $3.5 million or 440 or less than $500,000? Wouldn't it be foolish not to? You've answered your own question. Doesn't it make sense to invest with fortune weavers? Now we're going to give you some references. We want you to call and let them tell you how it's working for them. Simple as that. Simona.
Yeah, this is my question. Why people gonna choose, it's the same year, a different interest? Small amount, I think nobody gonna go like 4 or 6 interest, that's it? They go to 12%. So what is?
Well, this is what we would give as investors.
Same amount, but
Higher
different
interest.
We would provide higher interest, even though we don't have to. That's what we give our investors. They're 5%. When you call, you say, what has been the average over the last however long they've had it?
So you provide only 12%?
Only? Do you think that's low?
No, I mean.
Do you know how risky that is for?
I understand there is 4%, 6%,
It's the rate of
12.
return.
Same amount, right?
Right.
So same year.
Yes.
This is why I don't. I mean, it's.
One is through their
It's a different,
401K,
it's a different investment.
but one
vehicle.
is through their 401K,
Yes.
one is through what we provide at Fortune.
Or what you'll give your invest. So when someone invests with you on your flips, you're going to be willing to give them whatever you want to. I'm just going to advise you, give them much better than what they're getting. They'll always go with you. We're going to show you how to secure their money, okay? And that's why we never break the rules, so we don't screw up and lose that money for them.
Is your question, why would they pick the 4%?
No. My question is, like, there's 4, 6, 8, and 12. Same price. I mean, same
Amount of
money.
money.
Like,
4 different
I think
investments.
Yeah. Huh?
4 different investments. A CD is going to offer you 1, okay? Bonds might offer you the 4, right? The 401k might be 6, and we're offering 12. There was another vehicle we'll talk about that's probably going to offer you closer to 8.
We're showing them
9.
why they should go with us.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to compare what they have, which is apples, to what we have, which is oranges, right? It's apples to oranges. It's not the same.
Golden pears.
Yep, golden pears. Love it. All right. Does that make sense for you? You have to, I'm telling you, this is your takeaway tonight. I have gotten so many investors by just showing them this.
I have a question.
Yes. All right, simple interest versus compound. Read this. Compounding creates a snowball of money. At first, your returns may seem small, but if you're patient, they'll become enormous. It's huge. And it's not until the very end where you just really see this explosion. That's why when it comes to compound interest, it takes a while, but it will really work for you. Remember, Einstein said what? Most powerful force in the universe. Now, simple is what you pay on your mortgage. This is what we earn on our compound, our investments. How about this guy? Remember on that 401k? Good chunk of that's going to go to Uncle Sam, and he gets his, believe me. I have some of my investors right now that are just getting hit, right? And they invested with us for a long time. Now they have all this money, and Uncle Sam's just taking it. That's about how it is, really. So if we look at history, Great Depression, right? Look where the tax rates were. The highest tax rates were just above 20. For 50 years after that Great Depression, we saw the highest tax brackets levitate at above 60%. Highest tax bracket. All the way up to 91%. Can you imagine if you're super wealthy? And you're the 91. No wonder they want loopholes. Can you imagine living off 9% of whatever you make?
Can you explain I see the years, that's the percentage.
Right, so here's over from 1920 till right to where the crash kind of took place.
Who paid the 90%?
The highest income earners.
Meaning,
It's the highest tax bracket.
meaning over $1 million, or do we know?
Generally over the 350,000 is kind of that highest tax bracket.
Jiminies.
Average is 62% is the highest tax. Now, in this business, if you do what you're supposed to, you're going to make over 350,000 a year. You will. If you do what you're supposed to, you'll make over 350. That's why when you told me your goal, I laughed at you, right? I kind of chuckled because the reality is once you figure this out, 350 is nothing. You get to scale. Okay? You can do a lot of deals when the market's good. You can scale it down and, you know, some years might make 250, 3, something like that. All right? Once you figure this out, and that's not doing 1 or 2 deals, that's doing 4 or 5. All right?
Not too difficult.
It's not. 4 or 5 is easy. 10 gets hard. But if you're doing 10, now you're in that upper echelon. Now it's time to scale, get a better team. And then there was 1 year I was doing 20 at once in a 6-month period.
Whoa.
Some good times. Second worst financial crisis in history, under the other than the Great Depression, was right here, 2008. So now, what do you think is going to happen? Probably a very high increase in taxes. I don't understand how we're going to get out of the. I mean, we're in trouble. What is our national debt?
Trillion.
19 trillion.
Cut the government out.
It's 18. Well, that's not going to happen, so we got to live with it. So what we have to learn is, if we know this is coming, we have to learn how to play the game and how to play it in such a way where we pay the IRS our fair share, but as little as possible. Because if you don't, if you're just a W-2 employee, you're giving your money away. You're the worst. So let's look at different investments. You need to know this stuff because when you sit down with someone, they're going to quiz you. They might throw something at you. Okay, these slides are going to come to you much bigger, much larger tonight, but it's meant to be a guide. Traditional IRA, annual limits on contributions. Yes, you have limits. That means they say you can only put in so much money. Tax deferred accumulation, yeah, we want you to pay your taxes later, yes. Tax preferred distribution, no. Income tax free death benefit, no. Roth, we love our Roths. What's the problem with Roths? Government put limits on them. You can't what? And you can only make how much a year? No? 80. Maybe it's 88. For a couple, but most people are couples, right? Most. Roth IRA, annual limits on contributions, yes. What can I put in my Roth every year? We're going to see another slide that says it, but it's about $5,500. That's it. That's all you can put in it. $5,500. Unless you're playing catch up, they give you an extra grand. Okay. Tax deferred accumulation, yes. Tax preferred distribution, yes. Income tax free death benefit, yes. Our Roth IRAs are a wonderful thing, but there's limits on it. Qualified 401k, it's a qualified plan, means tax deferred. Annual limits, yes. Anybody know what a 401k limit is? 18 a year. Traditional 401, 18,000 a year. The max you can put in that thing. Yep, jumps up for catch up. What is it?
Catch up contributions 23.
25.5?
Oh, it's 25.
Yep. Tax deferred accumulation, yes. But what happens when I want to take it? I gotta ante up. I gotta pay Uncle Sam. How about when I die? Oh, no good. How about a CD? No. Don't do it. Don't do it. Does anybody in here have a CD?
Yeah, I want my car, I think.
No, it's still too long. Okay, mutual funds. Every financial advisor tells you to get mutual funds. Mutual funds. No. All right. Muni bonds. Okay, muni bonds. Okay. No. Individually owned deferred annuity. Okay, everybody tells you at a certain age, start getting annuities. There's some good to it. It's tax deferred accumulation, right? Life insurance. Most people think life insurance is for when you die. Well, not investment grade life insurance. The idea of life insurance that's investment grade is to get the least amount of death benefit for the highest return on your dollars. Annual limits? No.
Well, technically there is.
It's based on... Yeah, but you get more and more and more of these things. So theoretically, there's not. Right? And if you pass your health test, right? That has to be tied to health. Tax deferred accumulation, yes. Tax preferred distribution, yes. Passes tax-free upon death. We know life insurance does that. That's the beauty. When I talk about buckets, many times I'm talking about this. It's one of my favorite things. All right? Every time you buy a house, you should have a bucket next to it. Every time you buy a house, you should have a bucket. So when we do these things and you get cash flow, put it in a bucket. If that's what your intention is for retirement and to leave a legacy, you should buy a bucket. Remember I tell you, my kids got these when they were little babies. I think my daughter at 55 gets $255,000 a year, something like that, something ridiculous. Yeah, we set her up. She has no clue. I'm not going to. Yeah, she won't know. So risk tolerance. This is going to be all based on who you are as a person and what you've been conditioned in your life. If you have parents that are old school, they came out of the Great Depression, they're depressionary people, they're going to tell you to put money in the can in the backyard and bury it because you could lose it. The mattress money. They're low risk takers, right? Their risk tolerance is going to be over here with low risk. Cash, keep it in the backyard. CDs, which no, 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 no. Hey, but they're backed for $250,000 by FDIC, right? Is it FDIC? Yeah. Fixed annuities, indexed annuities. Oh, any IULs fit over here. I didn't know that. And then you got bonds, which are nice. Variable annuities, and then mutual funds and stocks. Stocks are the most risky. Can stocks do well for you? Absolutely. I will never, ever tell you not to do any one of these except for the CD. Not a fan. You know why? Low returns, penalized if you take the money out. It's just,
It's tied up.
it's tied up. There's no liquidity. I'm just not a fan. All right.
What were you saying about the IUL?
IUL
Yeah, you said, look over here, it's.
has potential for decent risk, and for loss of principal, very low risk.
Protected.
Not in a variable IUL, but in an indexed IU, or a UL, universal life policy. Now you can what? You can borrow tax free forever.
Forever.
All right. So you guys know that these vehicles are out there. We've all heard of them. I don't expect anybody to be able to explain them in detail unless you're a financial planner. Should I test you? Just kidding. I'm telling you, a whole nother language. It's a language. Just like learning Spanish. It's a language. Mutual funds, not so bad. Annuities are a little more simple. Bonds are really simple. Oh, we got a visitor. Hey, Beth. Good to see you. All right, these are all, that's a no-brainer, right? Easy. This is complicated, it is. It's hard to understand for most people. I think it should be something, I call it supplemental. It's something on top of everything else. I don't use this as my main retirement vehicle. What do you think mine is?
Real estate.
I'm a fan of real estate. My wife is a fan of other things. I like real estate because I can control it. No. So invest wisely. All right. How about Wall Street? You see the little word under there? The Wall Street Casino. Do we trust it? You ever see Wolf of Wall Street? There's a lot of movies that talk about this stuff. If you ever have known anybody who's worked in that industry, they will sell ice to an Eskimo.
Recruit them.
How about this one from 2008? Your stock index chart makes me feel much better. What happened in 2008? And here it's growing, right? I know so many people got hurt. You know, that little period of time was really bad for most. Not only were we losing houses, we were losing money in our retirement portfolios. I knew people that retired had to go back to work because they were trying to make up for lost time, and they left their money in a risky position in their later years. So when you're in your 60s, late 50s, we don't play the risky game anymore. A lot more money goes into cash and bonds, things that are going to be protected, versus leaving your money in stocks and probably the mutual funds. Mutual funds, stocks are the most risky in my opinion. Would you agree? And when we think a company or a business can't go out of business, talk to Lehman Brothers, right? Bear Stearns, yeah. We never thought they would ever go down. So this is 2016 numbers. 401k, 403bs, 18,000. Catch-up contribution, you can add another 6. You said that's changing to 25 now? So in 2017, that's going to go up a little higher. So your kiosks and your SEP IRAs, single, or your self-employment pension, you can put in $53,000 a year. That means you own your own business, you have a SEP 401k or SEP IRA. Defined benefits. Now this doesn't mean you can put $210,000 into these, that's the benefit. All right. There's all kinds of different retirement plans. But the one I want you to pay attention to, do we have the Roth on? Oh, I have the Roth coming up next. Oh, here's IRAs, $5,500. Same for a Roth. and then you have an extra 1,000 if you're playing catch up. Does a Roth allow a rollover though? Can you do a Roth conversion?
I have no idea. But you gotta pay taxes if it's a,
Pay taxes, yeah, pay taxes now.
What is your, I'm not sure I understood your question.
So let's say I have money in a traditional
Oh, absolutely.
IRA.
Right.
Would someone say, it depends on your age, depends on your situation. There's some strategic stuff that we can do that I think blows the socks off on most of this stuff. I'm not doing it anymore. I kind of lean it over to that guy because I trust him. But you can do some strategic stuff with money. Now, part of it's tied to your health. Definitely needs to be tied to health. But the IUL tends to be like a Roth in many ways, except there's a cost for the insurance. Okay? Traditional, and if you want to comment on that later, I'll let you. Traditional versus a Roth. Funds not taxed until withdrawn. 10% penalty, I'm having a hard time getting my words out, on early withdrawals. Better choice if tax rate lower at retirement. Most people think they're going to pay less tax when they retire. Tell that to the people that are coming up that are going to be 65 in the next couple years when our tax rates might possibly go real high.
Yeah, you want to be making more money, not less, don't you?
You want to be making more money, unless you're 3/4 of the country wants to live on Social Security.
I never understood that statement.
It doesn't make sense. I want to have my house paid off by the time I retire. That depends. Maybe if you're making money, you're going to need that tax write-off. Our biggest, as a W-2 employee, our best write-off is our mortgage tax deduction.
And it's the cheapest.
And it's the cheapest, that's right. So, Roth, they're after tax. You're paying tax on the front. But you can withdraw after a period of time, tax-free, 5 years, right? Got to leave it in there 5 years. Better choice if tax rate higher at retirement.
That's awesome.
Tax-free income in retirement. More flexible withdrawal options rather than a traditional. Contributions allowed after 70 and a half. What happens at 70 and a half in a traditional? Mandatory distribution. You cannot contribute anymore. It's time for the government to say it's time for me to get paid.
Well, it's true to a sense unless you're working. If you're working at 7.5.
Yeah.
you can still contribute.
Yeah. Do you want to be working at 70 and a half? Maybe if you're flipping properties and it's fun. Well, I have a buddy who's an old actor that is in his 70s. He was on General Hospital for many years. Matter of fact, he's selling his house to one of the most famous horse jockeys. He just told me today he's going to get an offer for $1.3 million. But he flips properties in retirement. Does a couple, 2-3 a year. He loves life. That's the way it should be. Now, on this particular flip, he's going to make $300,000.
Nice.
Where's the property?
Arcadia. High earners can contribute through a back door. Oh, that's interesting. Protects against future tax increases. That's the beauty of it. Everybody thinks they're going to have lower taxes in retirement. That's not necessarily the case. All right, new rule allows after-tax 401k rollover to a Roth. So you just need to know this stuff. Where is this? This is bankrate.com, right? An IRS ruling enables employees to roll over after-tax retirement plan contributions into a Roth IRA when they retire or leave their company. When they retire or leave their company. So if you have an old IRA, you can roll it over into a Roth. What can you do with a Roth? We can put it into a self-directed Roth, which allows them to invest with us. Can't just take an IRA and invest in real estate. But we can move it into a custodian that does self-directs. It's called a self-directed IRA or a self-directed Roth. If they partner with you and they make $50,000, that money's all tax-free. They just made $50,000 tax-free into the Roth. But if they're 59 and a half, theoretically, well, no. If they've had it 5 years, they can start playing with it, right? All right. Self-directed IRA, I kind of just gave that away. Here's the key. You can partner with your self-directed IRA, cash with other people, other IRAs, or even personal funds. Okay, it cannot come to you directly. So you have to be real careful with a self-direct. Because if you self-deal, you have tax consequences immediately and the custodian will drop you. So be careful with it. Self-direct. So what this means is people that have other IRAs and stuff can now invest in your flips with what's called a self-directed IRA or a self-directed 401k or whatever you, self-directed Roth. All it means is that that money is called, it's the same thing. A 401k becomes a self-directed 401k. And it gives you about 1,000 different investments. The only thing you can't invest in are collectibles and life insurance. You can't do it into one of our IULs we're talking about. Unfortunately, it would be really nice if we could.
Yeah.
You could. And you can't go buy, baseball cards.
You do gold?
You can do gold and silver. So we know, I just went over the rules. Disqualified people you can invest in, you and your spouse. You can't take the money personally. Now, are there ways around this? Of course. There are ways around this. Okay, you gotta be careful with family because they don't want you circumventing the system. The whole idea of a self-direct is that it's going to be invested with somebody else or somebody else's business. Standard & Poor's, you guys have heard of the S&P, right? 1997 to 2015, a lot of up years, especially over the last few. Boom. Can you imagine if you could have avoided this altogether? Did an IUL avoid that? An IUL avoided it. Didn't get hit. Here's a little bloop. So how many up years? So we got 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14. 14 up and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. So we have more up years than down years. But these were some bad years. You guys remember these? What was that? 9/11 hit, and then what?
Crash.
.com crash. And then 8 years later, we see this crash. I bet you we're about to have another one.
They say every 7 years.
Yep.
They're gonna bump the rate.
Stock market risk. In 2008, the stock market fell more than 40%. How much does it take to make up for that loss? Something to pay attention to. So if I lost 10%, I need 11 to break even. 20, I need 24. 40, I need 76. If I lost half, I need to make 100. How long does it take you to get back up to that? That's just to break even. All right, 100,000 invested in 1998. Okay, so and the point of this looks like a heart monitor. Look, we're back here. Yeah. Think it's going to go back down? Maybe here? As investors, we need to pay attention to this. Mr. Warren Buffett, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Never lose money. Index versus variable. Now, this is where an IUL would come into play. Never loses money, but it's capped at a percentage. Usually it's somewhere between 12 and 15%. So you're never going to earn, if we go back here, when this goes up 26, you're never going to earn that in that particular type of vehicle. Unless we do the no cap. No cap will. And that's a whole other conversation. But so where this ends at 183, this is at 214. $31,000 difference, which may not seem like a lot. Depends on when you retire. Interest credited to an IUL account tied to the S&P 500, investing in an S&P mutual fund. So look at this. So the idea is to understand that this is capped at 15 and it's got 100% participation in this index. So here's the returns. 2000, 14.82. This 100,000 became 114, 820. Same thing, right? Then the market crashed a little bit. 10% loss. That investment became 103. This one didn't lose. It's got a floor. Stayed the same. 2002, .com crash. This went down to 89. What if you were retiring right here? Right? Or how about right here? This didn't lose money. Went up 26. They gained some ground. This got 15 because it's capped at 15. Became 132. So if you look at that, look at the difference.
You know, pull it out in 2007.
Yeah, if you only knew then what you know now. So that's the beauty of these types of products is I think they're, again, supplemental. They're great because they give you the flexibility of the tax benefits. and you can borrow from it tax-free as well, and it passes to your family tax-free. And it comes with some life insurance. That's what I like. When it comes to the houses, that's why if you die, the house gets paid for. Your family isn't encumbered. Here's some other things. Now, these are all about the different investment vehicles. You have income tax-free distributions without penalties. What happens at 59 and a half? What if you pull your money from a 401k before 59 and a half? 10% state, or excuse me, 10% federal, and then state's probably going to hit you too, is right? Another 2. There's no effect on your Social Security benefits. That's key. Remember, in Social Security, if we earn money, we get our Social Security taken away. This doesn't affect that. Is that always the case? Because it's a loan, theoretically. Right, if you take it out as a loan, you're fine. If you take it out principal, obviously it's going to hit you because then it's age 65. No effect on Medicare. This is important. Forever. You have to take it out. There's no rules. There's no rules of taking it out. You just can.
Can you pull the money out of there at any time? There's no limit?
Well, okay, tax-free, you can pull up to a percentage of it, like 90%. If you go beyond that, then you start to have issues and you have to pay. But
So you don't have to leave it in there for X amount of time?
well, you need to have this thing grow, right? That's the whole point. This isn't a short-term investment. This isn't like I'm going to invest for a year and then pull it out. This is for retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to do short-term flip houses. Invest in those guys.
Right.
This is not meant for this. This is
If
long-term.
it goes flat, then you're stuck, right?
Well, you'll never lose principal. You just have a cost for insurance.
Yeah, but then,
You are not required to take a minimum distribution at 70 and a half. That's the great thing. They're not going to force you to take money out. Government doesn't have their hands in this one. So let's look at the Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and real estate. From January 2000 to 2012, that's our window. Look at real estate. Look at the growth. NASDAQ down. Dow was okay.
2,000.
Now to 2014. Dow caught back up. Remember before it was only 11? Now we add another couple of years, the Dow caught back up. But you can see what real estate's done. Now I have a feeling this is going to come down. Okay, but over this period of time, real estate actually did better. Now what's the benefit of real estate over traditional investments?
they're more stable.
Everybody's involved. Everybody's renting or buying, or even working. We're working in real estate right now. We're here. Let's create a lot of millionaires. But what else? What's the beauty of investing in real estate? It's an asset.
It can't be stolen or
Be knocked down. Earthquake can destroy it. No, OPM. I can leverage and get a huge return on my money if I leverage. So here's the thing. You understand, if I pay cash for a property, which is enticing sometimes, it's not the best return on investment. But if I leverage somebody else's money, that's where we get 50, 60% returns if we buy right. If we buy right. If we buy wrong, we take it in the pants. Always follow the formulas.
Really what you're saying when you're using OPM, I'm making infinite amount of money.
Infinite.
Infinite amount of money. So there's no percentage. There's no cap on it because it's not my money.
Right.
I'm making profit.
Right.
I think people-
But there's also a return on investment too, right? So if I have to put in 20,000 and I'm earning 14,000 a year on that money, there is a return, but it's still somebody else's money. That's a good point. So what is it? It's an infinite return.
Infinite return.
I'm using someone else's money,
No risk of my own.
and a tenant's paying that. Now, is there issues with properties? Sure, there's headaches. Last night I had to hear about some. Oh, the rats or whatever. You know, there's, okay, I'll get an exterminator, right? Yeah, they said there was rats.
Where you own? Oh, I'm shocked.
Okay, why invest in real estate? Leveraged appreciation. That property in California especially should average anywhere from 5 to 10%, depending on where. If you're out in the middle of the boondocks, in the middle of nowhere, you're probably not going to get 1%. But in Southern California, within 40, 50 miles of Los Angeles, usually you're going to see at least 5. All right? Now, if in the Midwest, where I have some property, you're looking at 1%. So you need to have high cash flow to compensate for the lack of appreciation. Appreciation is speculative. It really is. It's speculative.
Like 4 or 5 national and like.
No, depends on the area.
That's national. Average over the whole U.S. 4%. 4.5%.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up, but we're interested in pockets because demographically we can find a pocket in every part of the country that's going to have a great return on investment. All right, so you have to do the study, a demographic study before we buy that. There's a class in 2 weeks on cash flow properties. We'll be covering that. Tenants pay down your house. Someone else is paying it. I don't have to pay it. I love that. There's tax advantages. What do we have to do to a property? We have to depreciate it. Over 27 and a half years, we get this great tax write-off. And guess what? When we sell it, what happens? They want that money back. That's why we want to do this deferred trust, so we don't have to pay it back. That's why 1031 exchange is so important. Should be able to achieve at least a 12 to 20 at a minimum if you buy right. Okay. Mortgage interest is compound or simple?
Simple.
It's simple. What do we, and we get a mortgage tax deduction. What's the rate of the mortgage tax deduction? It's about 30% right off the top. They give you the highest amount. So if I have an interest rate of 3% and I get to write off 33 is what it ends up being, I'm really only paying 2. Does that make sense? Because I get to wipe off the 30% of it, of the interest. Okay. All right. So the government allows me to do a mortgage tax deduction on interest paid of about 33%. So that means if I'm paying simple, let's say the average interest rate right now, let's say it's 5. I'll say I'm paying a 5% interest rate. What's 5 minus 30%? Do it on your phone. 5 minus 30%. 5 minus 30%. So on $100,000 that I was borrowing and I was paying $5,000 a year, what am I paying now? Where's my phone? Just, it's simple. It's
3.5.
3.5. There you go. So I'm only really paying $3,500 because I got $1,500 back. Does that make sense? Doesn't make sense? Here's the beauty of it. I can borrow $100,000 at 5%, but it's really only costing me at $5,000 a year, 5%. But I'm really only paying $3,500. And then I could invest with Fortune Weavers and earn $12,000. That's what. So the $100,000 earns 12%. What's 12,000 minus $3,500 bucks?
One of those.
$8,500, right? Right?
Yep.
So I could arbitrage. That's what that's called, arbitrage. That's what the bank does to us. The bank will give you 1% in a CD and then charge you 4% on a mortgage loan. That's called arbitrage. All we're doing is reversing the roles.
Now you're the bank.
And now you're the bank and you have control, power, and choice. So that's what everything is about, control and not giving up your control to a lender. Because if I give my money to the bank, now I got to beg and plead and state my case why I should get my equity back out that I paid in. That's why I don't believe in paying down a house. I think you should have the money paying down somewhere, but keep it in this hand. The problem is people want to spend it, so you got to get it out of their way. That's why I like the bucket, because it gets it out of their way. Yeah.
Yeah, paying it off because you're only gaining the rate on the loan, right?
And it's simple.
You're just paying less interest.
Yeah. So why pay it off to gain a 3.5%?
It makes no sense.
So when you take that same amount of money and pay it out of something.
Yeah, statistically it makes no sense, or mathematically it doesn't make sense, not statistically. Mathematically it makes no sense.
No, because that money is the cheapest rate you can get money.
Guys, we will never see this again in our lives.
Well, they're gonna raise it 0.25% at the end of the year.
December, right?
Yeah.
I heard December.
Is that for
Then you're going to see a mad dash to the finish line. Everybody's going to start going,
Oh, yeah.
and then Scotty's going to make a ton of money refinancing people, right? And purchase loans. You're going to see it'll heat up this market before. It's kind of like the eye of the storm. It gets real quiet and peaceful because it was all crazy, and then the other part of the tornado hits, right?
Stocks will shoot up.
Yeah, we'll see some we'll see some good signs, and then it'll go after that. This is the last slide. So why real estate? High cash yield. Okay. Equity buildup, 2 greens. Leverage. I don't think anything else. I'm not going to tell you that real estate is the best investment. I just like it because I can control it. I can improve it to get more rent. Okay. If it's not performing, I can get out of it and move it to something else. Because there's always someone new that I was willing to pay for somebody else's problem. Because they buy on emotion, and we buy under correct knowledge. A lot of people say, you use that term luck. No, it's labor under correct knowledge. Know the formulas, stick to them, do not break your own rules. Okay. Knowledge is power, right? Rule of 72 has to be your takeaway tonight. It's key. Cash is king. That's right. Okay. Some of you, I can tell this. I know it's getting late, and it's like there's a lot. It's a lot of information. If you ever want to sit down and talk about this more, just set an appointment. So here's the thing: when somebody wants to ask you, so when you start talking about their stocks and bonds, all you want to know is some of these rules to go. Yeah, but here's the problem with stocks, right? They're risky. You can lose all your money in one fell, if something goes bad. And they're going to try to argue. And you don't want to argue with people, but just say, well, what if I could show you a way you could earn 12%, it's secured, and you can go watch it improve and be a part of it. You can knock on it.
Stocks are just a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's a piece of paper. There's no leverage. There's truly no security.
Don't know what the company's going to do. It's out of your control.
Yep. You don't have any insider information. But you talk to someone who's really into the stock market, they're gung-ho. Those people, that's not who we're focused on. We're focused on the everyday person. A lot of people inherit money. They don't know what to do with it. That's where, guys, we can help them. Where else are they going to get 12% secured? And if we want to help them, we can give them 50% of the profit. It's not even 12. It can be half.
Either or.
Okay, here's the rule. If they fund the whole project, they can have half. If they only fund a portion, then we're only going to give them the 12%. Or you're going to give them 12%. If you want to negotiate 8, if that's on your investments, you want to do 8% and you can talk someone into it, that's what we'll do. There's nothing that says we have to do 12. That's just what Fortune Weavers does for their investors.
It's like to seal the deal.
What
Yeah.
is our interest if we bring it the investor?
Let's start at 8 and go 12. You get paid on that.
Well, you're doing a flip with it on our flip. So that money is going towards the flip. So your return is what you get paid. You're not bringing an investor into Fortune Weavers. You're bringing an investor in to do your deals. Unless you want to bring money to me.
I'm thinking about it.
Well, then that's a whole other conversation. But really, that money needs to go to your flips. That's what it's intended for.